Hi, Andy. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Hey, Akash, how are you? So good to see you.
Thank you so much, Andy. And, I would thank you one more time for taking out time from your busy schedule. Because I know running a multi-million dollar company is not easy, but still you have managed to take out time for this session. I'm glad for that.
I'm very thankful and grateful for the opportunity to speak with you, Akash. You and I have worked together for a number of years, and it's always a pleasure for me.
Great. So, Andy, in this session, what I really want to do is I want to decode dentistry. Since I've been talking to, so many people in the industry, and one thing that I've noticed is people are talking about the same kind of pain points. And, there are certain terms like digital dentistry. Everyone have their own meaning to it. Everyone, defines digital dentistry differently. So in this session, we'll be talking about, some of these kind of things. And in a way, what I would like to do is I would want to talk about what's actually broken in the dental lab space. That is one. Number two, why dentists still face challenges, even though there are 10,000 plus dental labs out there in the US market. But still, dentists are facing similar challenges even now. And number three is what a good lab experience should actually look like, right? So all these kind of things, I would want to talk about in this session, and I believe it's going to be a good learning experience, for me and the people who are watching this session. So to begin
Sure.
with, uh, Andy, for someone who doesn't know your journey, it would be great if you could, describe your experience and journey altogether.
Well, not too long after college, I had the opportunity to meet with a gentleman in a hotel for a job interview for sales. And he looked at me and he said, "Young man, do you think you can sell this?" And he took a denture out of his pocket and slid it across the table. Of course,
Right.
I'd never actually seen a denture up close, being in my early 20s. And I was like, what do I do now? So I picked it up and then started talking about probably some really non essential things about dentures. But I did talk about it, and he was impressed enough. We had a couple more interviews, and it worked out that I began a sales journey with National Dentex. That was back in 1987. So I was very
Oh,
fortunate to have some really good mentorship at that time and come into the dental field at a time where things were still analog, but they were looking to the future. They knew changes were coming because you could see certain advancements being put into place and certain opportunities for technological growth and development. So you're thinking, okay, this is going to be a wild ride. And it has been. I stayed with National Dentex for 19 years, but throughout that journey and throughout that time, I was promoted to lab management at an early age. In fact, I was the only person at that time that had been promoted from sales into lab management. And that was
mm,
fascinating because, as a rule, laboratories in that time period were generally run and managed by people that had come up on the bench, who had worked as technicians. So it was a little bit of a stretch for them to trust a guy who came through sales and marketing to help them manage and grow a business. So I was thankful to have the opportunity to do that. And the lab, with the support of the technicians there, began to grow and to flourish. And that created some other opportunities along the way. And those opportunities came in the form of, hey, Andy, can you go help this lab? Andy,
yeah.
can you go visit that lab? Take a look at their sales department. And then later on, it became take a look at the entire lab, look at the entire operation, and see if there are ways that we can bring value to them as a corporation. Because a lot of the laboratories still operated, even though we were under the same National Dentex umbrella, they still operated independently in many respects. And they were run by people who generally had started the lab and grew the business over a period of years. And they were firmly ingrained in not only the technology, but also the demands of their local market. So they were extremely valuable people to have remained with the company. And it was certainly my job not to go in to change everything, but to try to find opportunities for them to improve.
Hmm. So how come from that experience, to starting your own lab business? Because knowing you for almost a decade, I know you started Blue Box Dental Lab at some point of time, and you grew it to a certain level. You sold that company, then you got into the lab business again. So how come that happened?
Well, I started to see some changes in the marketplace. First of all, people were looking for pricing. People were looking for homogeneity in the product. And with, almost 20,000 different dental laboratories in the 80s, you had a pretty diverse experience with each laboratory. They had different skill levels, they had different specialties, they had very unique approaches to their market, and a lot of them simply worked in their local town or community. So they did not have a big reach. So it was a lot of independent operators. And I started to see National Dentex was a part of that, where there's consolidation, and so you're having to manage a larger disparate group of laboratories located in various geographic pinpoints across the map. And I said, okay, this industry is changing. How is it changing? And so people are looking for more consistency in the product. People are looking for lower pricing. I saw that as well. And then we had a little bit of difficulty in hiring. There was a lot of competition at that entry point in our business. And the competition, unfortunately, was from even like fast food distributors. We're able to pay people more than a lot of the laboratories were at that time to get started, as a trainee to learn the business. So I saw those challenges coming, and I started looking at a different model. And the model was what I called it then smart sourcing. Just trying to find places that can manufacture a good product. And then we worry more about the logistics, the customer service, providing a broad spectrum of products that are high quality, and giving the customer the kind of communication and assistance that they deserve along the way. So a lot of labs are focused on the technical side. Our shift became, hey, we're going to get somebody to manufacture for us. We're going to represent some good laboratories, but we're going to do it in a different and unique way, where our focus is on satisfaction of the customer and the patient. And that started Blue Box in 2007, and we grew rapidly. In fact, on that journey, we started growing, 30% a year, 25 to 30% on average, because people were very receptive to what we were offering. And at some point, someone became interested, and then several entities became interested in acquiring us and trying to learn maybe what the secret sauce was. How were we growing and expanding so quickly?
Yeah, because ultimately, I believe, all the dental labs are selling just three, specific, I would say, parameters: price, quality, turnaround time. But ultimately, it's about the kind of experience you are giving them, and the kind of comfort they feel when they work with you is something that truly matters. And this is something you cracked, to a great extent. So great, Andy. So now talking about selling Blue Box to a different group, and then after that, I know you did a lot of consulting projects, but you got back to your roots. You started the dental lab business again. Just out of curiosity, what made you stick to this industry for so long?
Well, Blue Box was fantastic. We really enjoyed it, my wife and I, working in that business. And there's a part of it that a lot of people don't talk about, but it's certainly a part that we missed. And that's watching young people grow and develop in their careers, and giving them an opportunity. There's so many people out there, especially in more rural areas. We're in a smaller community outside of Jackson, Mississippi, don't have the kinds of opportunities to grow and develop and to find good career paths, and especially from chair side. A lot of dental assistants, very capable, intelligent, wonderful people, but they top out pretty quickly in the dental assistant role. And what we looked at was providing a career path for them, where they could grow and flourish and achieve things that they thought maybe weren't even possible. Because we were a growing company. We would take somebody and teach them marketing. We would teach them sales. We would teach them customer service. They already came with a dental background, and they would continue to grow and develop that aspect of their skill set, because they started learning more about, lab terminology and lab products and procedures and processes. But also they learned about the business side of things. And we've been really proud, from our Blue Box experience, to be able to say, okay, this person, was an accountant at a large accounting firm. And during COVID, they got displaced, and we were able to give them a role in our company where they learned some skills that allow them now to be an industry leader and a tech side, in the tech side of the industry. So, and they're at a very young age. That wasn't a career path they envisioned for themselves. They were very disappointed. Things didn't work out for them in an accounting firm in New York, but they were able to find their way to success. And we played a small part in that. And it's not that we actually do anything for people, but we open doors and give them opportunities. And that's what was so satisfying for us at Blue Box. And we missed that. When we were away from the business, we would hear from people and we'd see what they've done. And we like to keep up with them to say, oh man, look how they're really growing and being successful in their career. And they started with us, and it was such a source of pride and satisfaction for ourselves to see that we were able to have that little bit of impact on them and give them some support in achieving their dreams. And after 2 years away, I realized I missed it. And I said, we're doing okay for ourselves. I mean, obviously selling a pretty large company, we're financially okay, but that wasn't the point. We missed the game. We missed the hiring and finding people and watching them grow and building something together and the teamwork and the camaraderie. And hey, it's us, our little company against the rest of the world. We're going to take on the larger players in the industry and find our niche where we can outserve and out compete with them. So, that was something that was very appealing. And I said, hey, we understand how this works. Let's try this again. And so Fine Print was founded.
So, while you were focused on, giving opportunities to, people, and, definitely it gives you a lot of satisfaction. And, that shows in the numbers as well. You've been growing 30%, 40% every year. And I think the same kind of numbers you have seen in Fine Print as well. But at the same time, you never, talk about digitization. You never talk about digital dentistry a lot. Can you talk about that briefly? Like, what digital dentistry is to you, and in what ways you have incorporated the digital mechanisms in Fine Print?
Well, I mean, clearly, when I started in the business, everything was analog. And when we were talking about digital then, it was more like discussion of various CAD CAM, computers and machines that were maybe milling out a substructure that they're going to put a specific product on. And, that was in the early 2000s. That we were seeing, some of that. And there was a little bit of concern on the technician's part. Oh, we don't need a technician to, pour up a model and to wax up a crown and to invest it and cast it and metal finish it. What are these poor technicians going to be doing? So there was some concern at that time that technology was going to displace, a lot of the workers. But, that was what digital started as. And then obviously the scanning technologies improved. We saw larger companies like Serona come along and say, hey, we're going to place these scanners in doctors' offices. We're going to move away from the analog impressions to digital impressioning. And then a whole host of other companies joined in, Itero and some of the others. And now they're almost too numerous to try to count the competitors in that field, as the industry has gradually shifted and transitioned from traditional impressioning to digital impressioning. Now, probably the biggest surprise is it hasn't it transitions more rapidly. I think that maybe 10 years ago you would have thought it would have been 100% digital by now, but still there are limitations to what the machines can do. There are limitations, for the types of products that you're trying to manufacture. So I mean, you still need traditional impressioning, but but because it was digitized, because you had the CAD CAM milling, printing came along, and you had the digital impressioning, you start developing a digital workflow process. Now that's fantastic, and it has improved processes and predictability. You've got AI that's involved in the design aspect of this. So you're starting to see crowns that are natural, lifelike, but they're all very similar because the materials are similar. Some type of zirconia, being milled by an AI program and machine. So there's a lot of homogeneity in what we're seeing. But for me, the digital is great. It actually is just a part of what we do. I don't look at it as a magic wand. I look at it a little differently. From a business perspective, it's either a traditional workflow process or a digital workflow process. What we care about is the customer touch points along the way, and to make sure that we're doing our job, the customer and the patient get the best result. And that has nothing to do with digital. It doesn't matter if it's digital or traditional. There are still doctors out there doing traditional impressioning that are getting fantastic results, and and have a predictable growth path for their practice. But ultimately, the digital is just a little more efficient, and I think that is where we're going to continue to see things go. But from our perspective, it's digital, traditional, doesn't matter, or a mix of the two. We're just focusing on the customer touch points.
So now, if we talk about digital dentistry, but from a different perspective. So one part is definitely automating the production process, but on the other side, automating the customer touch points as well, right? So having those customer portals through which dental practices can track the overall case life cycle through the portals. They should be able to reach out to us through the portal. They should be able to get proper understanding where my case is, right? So what about that aspect? Do you see that also being a part of digital ecosystem, or is this something completely different?
Well, I mean, it's a supporting platform, right? It's part of the customer experience. It's a communication apparatus to support the digital workflow. In other words, by communication, I mean you've got digital information you've captured with a scan. It has to be communicated somehow, and there are platforms out there that make that easy for you. We use one of them, and these platforms are evolving. They're getting better. And what happens is people see and they evaluate the systems every day to make sure they're improving and providing efficiencies for the customer and for the manufacturing laboratory. And we see upgrades and updates all the time from our software, our system provider, and it's fantastic because we make a suggestion. One of their IT team works on it. The next thing we see gradual improvements. So yeah, there are a number out there that are available. And at one point, maybe 10 years ago, very few laboratories had what we would call a platform to serve the customer. To say you had a portal was a little bit unique, and there were people who avoided it. They're like, I don't really want to deal with that. I just want to write everything down on a piece of paper and stick it in a box with a case. And now it's just very commonplace, where they enter cases on the portal, they upload scans on the portal, they ask questions on the portal. So we're continuously monitoring that communication and that information to make sure we're getting things right. So it's becoming more and more commonplace. The phone doesn't ring as much as it used to. I mean, the lab, we just had people answering the phone that was blowing off the desk every day. And now, they're typing and they're responding in that manner. So it has changed. So yes, the question was about the platforms. The platforms are out there. They're becoming more robust. And I think that you're seeing something as well in that part of the industry, that they're becoming less expensive. I think the individual companies that are building, platforms and charging high premiums, they're going to struggle a little bit in the future, because these less expensive ones that have been available for some time and have had a lot of adoption. Because of that adoption, they're getting continuous feedback from their large base of clients for improvements, and those are getting better and stronger every day. So that's an interesting element to me, or aspect to the evolution of the platforms. But yes, platforms definitely a part of the process now.
So I was saying, since you mentioned you have a customer, portal to provide the best possible experience to the dental practices you've been working with. So what are those top five features you want to talk about?
Well, I think that the first thing is ease of use. It's easily accessible. You can go to our website, you just click a button and you're in. So it's an easy platform to work with. You can upload your data. You can ask questions easily. I think the customer interface is perfect, and it gives us instant communication on cases. I mean, you don't have to wait for somebody to answer the phone. It pops
Yeah.
up on a screen. When you enter a case, it audibly announces your case was entered.
Hmm.
Everyone in the lab at a workstation hears it. Dr. Smith has entered a case, and it just it's all day long. You hear these case entries, so we're well aware that something's happening, that your practice has submitted something.
Hmm.
So I don't know if I can name five things, but those are a few things that I personally like about it: is the accessibility, the ease of use, the instant communication aspect of it. I think those are all quite important for us. And on our side of things, I mean, there are tons of value aspects to the software that makes our job a lot easier to serve the customer.
Hmm.
So from the email and the texting, we've incorporated an additional software to it that we can use texting features. So many
Okay.
people communicate with cell phone these days. It's nice to
Yeah.
be able to do that. So yeah, I think that it's a robust program. Customers will love it. We love it, and every day, they're doing improvements for us. So
Yeah. So
I think
truly,
it's
yeah, so
fantastic.
truly ease of working is what Fine Print stands for, and the customer portal is just amplifying that impact.
Yes.
So now, Andy, talking about the two main aspects of, the digital component. One is the production system. Second is the customer portals that, nowadays labs are trying to come up with. So if I say, do you think most labs actually differentiate today? And if yes, on what basis? If a dentist, is looking for a dental lab to outsource work, what are the parameters they should actually look for? What are those key differentiating factors they should be looking for?
I think that with a lot of similarities in the platforms and manufacturing, you still have to look at patient satisfaction and customer satisfaction. We evaluate that often. We're very sensitive to it, and we try to make continuous improvements in what we're doing, so there are fewer customer disappointments. We actually hold a 15-minute meeting every morning, and people talk about things that we did well in the meeting, and then sometimes people want to talk about things we could get better at. And a laboratory that's not focused on the customer and doesn't have that service culture, they're not going to be making those improvements. They're not going to be having those kind of meetings where somebody says, "Oh, Dr. Jones has had a problem with, let's say, high occlusion, or maybe a turnaround time or something. How can we help them get a better experience?" That's always the question. It's never a finger pointing session. It's always about, hey, this is an issue for a customer, and we put our heads together and say, and try to sort it out. What ways can we show an improved result for them? because the perception of the customer is everything. And if they perceive that there's a shortcoming, then we need to focus on that and communicate with them about that and see if there are ways that we can enhance their experience. So a laboratory that's not built that way, they'll just say the customer gets what they get. And on our end, we're saying, okay, you know what, that's not good enough for us, right? That may be good enough for a large lab in California, or, somebody that's got 10,000 customers. They don't care customers come or go. They're doing, pretty well. For us, each customer has a value, and each customer is significant to us. And, that's part of number one, size. I mean, we're not a huge company yet, but number two, just the way that we're built. And the way that we're built, we hire people that are sensitive to the client, and we train that way, and we try to incentivize that way as well. When the company does well, we make sure that there are bonuses and that type of thing that are provided, because ultimately the customer is the evaluator of the distinctions in the laboratories.
Yeah. So now talking about, so you mentioned you do a 15-minute session every day, and you talk about all the issues that you've been hearing from different clients of yours. So what are those most common issues you hear from dentists about their labs?
There are two different categories for that. The common complaints our sales reps hear when a doctor changes laboratories, and then there are the issues that we work on a day-to-day basis. Now, what our sales reps hear is my lab has changed. They don't seem to care about my problem. They don't listen to me. I can't reach them on the phone. I don't know who to talk to when I have an issue or a problem. They take a day or two to get back with me. When sometimes I have a patient in a chair, or I've had 5 remakes in a row and I can't seem to get this problem fixed. Those are the kind of things that we hear out in the field. So, we kind of have a good list of what not to do. Again, you have to be listening for that. And that's what our focus is. We do listen. Okay, we know what they're doing. We don't want to be them. So let's pay attention. Okay, we're not doing this, but let's make sure that we do everything to be the opposite of this kind of experience for the customer. And then there are the things that we talk about in the morning meetings, and they're usually not huge, but it would be like a customer may have complained about turnaround time. And then the first thing we do, we go to our really nice software and we pull up their actual average turnaround. We have that now, average turnaround for customers. And we look and we see, has it been longer than it should be? And, so we'll dig through, and sometimes maybe, there was a problem with shipping, or it was on a problem list, that kind of thing. And what happens is you generally hear about an anecdotal situation. In other words, it was that one case out of 30 cases that it was somebody's grandmother, or it was, a person was really upset with the practice. But then you look on the whole and you say, okay, actually, that's not been your experience on average. This was just sort of an outlier. And, if we can communicate that in a very polite and encouraging way to say, hey, we got good news for you. We're not taking 15 days on all your cases. We're actually averaging 9. But that particular case was a problem, and here's why. Some of it was probably our fault. We should have recognized it was an issue in the beginning. We always try to communicate that way to say, it's our responsibility to satisfy you. So in almost every situation, we accept some of that blame or responsibility, because it's not a blame game. You're just trying to communicate, hey, this is what your overall experience has been. And, and so sometimes there is an issue, like maybe there was a remake or two that we didn't notice that came through that we should have communicated better on. And we look at that as a learning opportunity to say, okay, now we see what happened. How do we fix this in the future? And what we'll do sometimes is we'll just make changes in the process and say, okay, just for instance, if a case comes in a second time for remake, there's a red flag on the case. automatically. It's not something somebody has to do. We'll set it up in the system. And that means someone has to make a phone call, right? So,
Mhm.
that we build that in the system just as reminders because of the volume that we have. We don't want to lose track of serving that individual customer.
Yeah.
For us, I'm like, okay, I don't want to lose anyone. And that is how our manager looks at it. That's how our team looks at it. And if we're disappointing somebody, we really do try to look at it and see how can we fix this problem, even if it's fixing it just for them. And I can tell you a number of times we've lost money on cases because I said, okay, what are their expectations? Are we meeting the expectations? And they don't want to pay for this. That's fine. We'll accept that. We're going to make it right. And even, to me, it's very important. Even if somebody's upset over something to the point that they leave, you leave them with the very best impression you can, that you did all that you could possibly do.
Mhm.
And that is important to me because honestly, we have a lot of customers who come back to us, and they come back to us because we didn't say good riddance when they walked out the door. We said, we are so sorry we disappointed you, and we'd love to have your business if you ever change your mind. And that's a difference. That's a cultural difference. And that's something that you build into your business. That is a distinction. That's not something that's built on a platform. It's not built by some corporate mandate. It's built by the way you hire and how you build your culture.
So you talked about remake percentages. You talked about communication. In the last few sentences. What is acceptable to dental practices? Because remakes will be there. Being in a service industry, out of 100, not every case can be perfect, right? Because every dentist, every dental practice have their own preferences for their patients. So what is still okay in terms of remake?
I think it depends a lot because doctors generally, their practices, they're not built to do data analysis really. And they can get some from certain softwares, but most of the time when people get frustrated, it's over that repeat remake case. I always say, and it's event related frustration. It's not like a consistent problem that is, evident. It's more like there was an event. And I think for most doctors, though, I mean, labs run 4 and 5% remake factors as an average, and they count it differently. People play with those numbers and the nomenclature. I've seen it. When we used to work for two larger national companies, or actually international companies, they would play games with that. Well, if the doctor paid for it, doesn't count as a remake. And so they had all kinds of games to try to window dress those numbers. But those numbers are pretty consistent because you're making something for the mouth, which isn't necessarily a static environment for patients who don't necessarily have the proper expectation for what a restoration is. It's not actually restoring their natural dentition and a 20-year-old smile. It's so you're going to have people who aren't happy with shading or shape of a tooth or so there are going to be remakes that are beyond doctor's control, beyond lab control, and that falls into that percentage a little bit. So yeah, I would say on average, if 4% to 5% is probably a pretty good number, to look at. I think it's very consistent throughout the two companies I worked in, where we got to see a large, broad spectrum of volume and different types of capabilities in the various laboratories. That was a normal amount, and most doctors are accepting of that. Like I said, for them, generally the displeasure comes on one or two particular cases in a row, maybe, even though they may fall in the standard of deviation that just happen to be on certain patients that got their attention. So it's interesting how that works, but unfortunately, a lot of decisions in every aspect of business are made on anecdotal information as opposed to actual data.
Yeah. So now, Andy, let's talk about AI, because it's the buzzword right now in dentistry, and a lot of dental design centers. The big one like Iconic Dental is there, Three Shape is there, and a couple of more design centers are there who are purely designing using AI technology. What's your opinion about that, and what kind of remakes you have seen using AI versus using the traditional means?
I would like to say that we've seen improved remake factors, but the digital remakes are pretty similar to the traditional remakes. That shouldn't be the case. Logically, you would say that wouldn't be the case because you would say you're taking some of the variables out of play, with the digital workflow. And that wasn't the promise that was given years ago when we moved to digital. And the AI aspect of it, I don't think AI has caused any dramatic change. I think it's just enhanced and improved the way the digital functions. Because AI essentially took a look at all of the various designs that thousands and thousands of designs that have been done, say for a given type of restoration, say a molar, a first
Yeah.
molar, and said, okay, this is what a first molar should look like, right? This is the way it looks, and they'll just fill that space on the mouth with something that is accepted to be a normal and an aesthetic looking molar. So I think AI has enhanced, but the differences in the results, I'm not convinced that there's a ton of difference at this point.
Okay. All right. Now, talking about a good lab experience. So, if a dental practice, is evaluating a lab today, what should they actually be looking for?
I think the only way that they can truly evaluate a laboratory is to try the lab,
Mm.
because labs are getting more sophisticated with their marketing, more sophisticated with their sales and customer service approach. No lab ever made a bad restoration while they're standing in front of you telling you should try their lab. They're perfect, they're great, they're fantastic, they're better than who you're using, they're faster, they're smarter, they're cheaper, whatever. They're telling you a story. So it's kind of like, all right, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing, I'll try somebody else. But I think the only true test is to give them some trial cases and say, okay, let's see how they work. Because evaluating it based on what you're hearing and seeing is not really the best way to do it. I think that what we try to do is just say, hey, we're a little bit different because we're not going to do the song and dance about how wonderful we are. We're just going to tell you that we're going to take care of you. And I think that is a different approach, because most people are trying to focus on, we've got this multi-billion-dollar investment in robotic, milling machines and AI software. And sometimes that doesn't really impact the customer in a positive way. I mean, they're just, they want to send something off and get it back and never even talk to the lab, never hear from the lab. They just get good stuff back on time.
Right. So now, if let's say a lab tries you out, right, or a dental practice tries you out, for a couple of trial units, what's that one thing that instantly tells you a lab is good or bad?
I think there's just the lack of friction, and how easy it is to make a connection with the lab. Do they welcome you? Do you get their attention? Do you show up on their radar? Do they thank you for sending the work? Does somebody follow up with you to make sure that you received the product? Was it like you expected it to be? Do they respond when you have requests like, I need information, I need shipping materials, that kind of thing? Do you get a good response? I mean, those are things that you sort of look for in the beginning. And to know that you're not just another case that showed up in their door
Mm.
or populated their screen, that, you're important. The success of your practice is important to that lab. And
Mm.
that's not something you get every time you send things to different laboratories. I mean, that's one distinction that we try to make, is we have like welcome kits and we make welcome calls, because, it is important. We celebrate that. Get a new account. We have, text messages with the sales team. We celebrate every single new account that comes in the door. It's important to us. It's not just another doctor or just another case. They're coming and joining the family,
Yeah.
and we want them to feel welcome.
That's great. I mean, and I think that's the core reason why you've been able to multiply the revenue in the last 2 years for Fine Print as well. You have done that in the past for Blue Box, and now you're replicating the same thing for Fine Print as well. So, great job there, Andy. Now,
Well,
talking
let, let
about
me
the
just
future.
say, Akash, I'm standing back and watching these amazing young people who
Yeah.
are vested in this customer service company that we built,
Yeah.
and they see it as their career path. They want to excel at it. They want to be champions at it. They want to be known throughout the industry as being the best at what they do. And
Mm.
I stand back in awe every day watching this team work. And it's so, I go in some days and I'm like, well, does anybody need me? I'm here. If they're working and collaborating as a team. And occasionally I get consulted on a few things, but yeah, it runs like a well-oiled machine, to be honest. And that's what I'm proud of, what the
Yeah.
company is able to do, what the team is able to do, seeing these young people excel.
So it's actually a dream for a lot of business owners having a team which doesn't require the person who has built this company to this level. So yeah, I mean that's a dream for a lot of business owners.
Yeah, I hear and I see, on social media, there are a lot of small business owners who complain about how difficult it is, and it is hard. And the challenges you face because you're competing with large corporations, private equity money. There's so much out there that is making it challenging and difficult for small business owners. But when you have the right team with the right focus, and they build a good culture, and you get them the right tools, they can do amazing things. They can do miraculous things.
Yeah.
Some people say, well, you must be a pretty big company. I said, well, no, we're just a few people in Pearl, Mississippi that come to a building every day and try to make magic. And they're doing that. And like I said, I'm super proud of them.
Yeah, great. So now talking about the future, Andy, where do you see this industry going over the next 5 years?
That's hard to say, and it's always, to me, you look back at where you've come from, what's the trajectory, and the trajectory is more and more private equity is getting involved in our industry, and you see that by the consolidation of dental practices. The DSO industry continues to grow at an accelerated pace. Consolidation in the lab industry. Private equity started looking at the labs and saying, oh, well, this is a component of this industry. Let's consolidate these small individual laboratories and roll them into something more substantial. And we can find some efficiencies there. And so, that is continuing to happen. I think both of those are going to create a different landscape in the future for dentistry. Then you have to look at even, does retail get involved? I mean, I know Walmart is experimented with some
Yeah.
dental practices. You wonder if retail gets involved, and you're going to see continued, scan or full circle of digital workflow process in the dental practices. I think, companies are continuing to try to say, okay, you scan it, it shows up in the magic box over in the corner, in 30 minutes. And They haven't reached that yet. That's always been the promise, but it is the holy grail, right? And I think that that's going to continue to be an evolution to watch. How well can they create that process? How effective would it be? Will the results be acceptable clinically for the doctors? And I think that, so there are a number of things going on you have to kind of keep an eye on. But I do believe that the consolidation effort, the big money rolling into the industry, is going to be probably the tsunami to keep your eye on, because the digital transformation has already happened. More, as many practices have scanners as are doing traditional impressions. The big hits already happened there. We were looking at that 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We're looking at milling machines and printers. Those are continuing to evolve, but we've already kind of taken a bite out of that apple. But the consolidation, where at some point the number of DSO practices are going to outnumber the private practices, the number of private equity owned laboratories at some point may outnumber the private labs. That's going to be an interesting time, and it's hard to predict what that's going to look like and how difficult that landscape will be.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of consolidation and centralization, I would say, will continue to happen, and that's, I believe, one of the major reasons why the number of labs in the US market have also gone down considerably. 5 years back, it used to be more than 10,000, but now it has come down to somewhere around 5,500 right now, if I'm not wrong. So all of that is happening because bigger private equity firms and bigger lab groups are continuing to acquire these dental labs and create a centralized model, more SOP driven model, more digitized model. But yeah, this consolidation is definitely happening. So yeah, perfect. So now I think we've almost come to an end of this session, of this wonderful session. But I would love to take 5 more minutes and do not a rapid fire, but a quick round where I'll be asking some questions and a quick answer to all those questions in less than 20-25 seconds. All right.
I'll do my best.
All right. So the first question, the industry talks a lot about digital dentistry. Why have you chosen to focus more on customer experience alone?
Well, because I felt like that's where our niche was. To me, you don't want to follow the lemmings. You want to go counterculture. You want to go to a different direction. And you look for the seams, and that's where the opportunities are in the cracks.
Awesome. Next question is, do you think the industry is over indexing on technology and under investing in customer experience?
I think the industry is evolving to where customer experience is becoming a greater focus, because there is some recognition that it's important, but the industry will still focus on technology because that's where you can spend your money and get a predictable ROI and a predictable distinction. Spending more money on customer service sometimes doesn't equate or communicate well in the boardroom. So I think they'll still continue to invest in digital and technology expansion.
Okay. Now, in your view, what actually differentiates a lab today, if not quality?
Well, customers will look at price, but they're going to look at that first case. They're going to look at how well things were followed as far as instructions are concerned. They're going to look at the welcoming nature of the laboratory. Those things will be important to them. And I think they're the best way to distinguish your company.
Okay. Now, where do you think most labs are getting it wrong right now?
I think a lot of smaller labs are trying to be big labs. They're, embrace who you are, focus on their strengths, which oftentimes are relationships, or maybe it's a technical advantage. Maybe you're really, really good at implants. Embrace that and hold on to that and develop that. Don't try to be, a $500 million lab when you're a $3 million lab serving, the people in your local area. Double down on what works for you.
Okay. Now, what does being easy to work with actually mean for a dental practice?
They never think about the lab. They think about them at Christmas time, maybe get a Christmas card. But no, I mean that's what you're looking for, a seamless experience, something that doesn't require much attention. You send the work off, it comes back, it's right, and it's on time. That's what a doctor truly is looking for.
Okay. So now in this ecosystem, Andy, everyone talks about customer life cycle, but I talk about case life cycle as well, because every case, from the time you receive the scan to you deliver the restoration, it's a case life cycle. So what does an ideal case life cycle look like from a dentist perspective?
Well, I mean, from a dentist perspective, again, that's the door to door. For our perspective, it starts with the customer understanding of what the results will be. What's the final result? As long as what the customer has realistic expectations, that's a great start. Then it's communicated properly, and that's through the impressioning process. That's through the preparing the prescription. So the customer expectation has to be communicated, and the doctor expectation along with that properly to the laboratory, so we know what they're trying to accomplish with the case. Then our team has to communicate that when we receive it. In other words, we have a case entry team. Case entry has to pay attention and say, okay, this is what is the doctor expecting, what is the patient expecting, and how can we achieve that? How do I communicate that where that's evident throughout this process? Do I need to put extra notes in the system? Do I need to ask for photographs? Do I need to call and verify? What do you mean exactly when you say you want a darker stain at the gingiva? That type of thing. Sometimes we have to reach out and get more information. So as the case entry team is very important in making sure that the laboratory understands what the end result will be. And then you have the various technicians at the different processes that have to build for that expectation and have to make sure they're paying attention again to what they're trying to accomplish. And then you have a QC team at the end that kind of verifies what they were told by the case entry team. I mean, what are they looking for in this case? Are they looking for mamelon development? Are they looking for special characterization on a denture? Do they know that the midline is off? Is that acceptable to them in QC? They're looking at things and saying, okay, is this what the doctor wanted? They go back to the case entry team, and then sometimes they contact the doctor as well and say, this is what we have. I want to send you a picture of this to make sure this is what you're looking for before we send the case out. And I think that's how, all those are all of the components of the process. And then, of course, you want to make sure you've got the right label, the right bill for the case. Everything goes in the proper box and is picked up by UPS or FedEx to be delivered. So those are just some of the touch points. You can break that down into really, really small increments if you want to. But those are the key areas I think that are important. Patient expectation, doctor communication of that expectation, the case entry team making sure that it's understood what the lab is looking for, what the doctor's looking for, and then a good QC checkpoint at the end to make sure that we fulfilled the requirements of the prescription and are meeting the expectations of the client.
Right. So, all right. So, Andy, the next question is, where are the hidden costs of poor communication between labs and practices? Because, definitely dental practices, look for quality. They're looking for flexible turnaround time. They're looking for, the prices as well, competitive prices, as we say. But there is a hidden cost when the communication is poor between dental practices and dental labs. So what's that hidden cost?
Well, from the lab perspective, labs are looking at the cost of a remake. Okay, there was poor communication. The case has to be remade. So the lab is going to have to absorb the cost in most cases of remaking or refabricating. And that's important to the lab. It increases, their cost of goods sold, that type of thing. On the dental side, they're looking at chair time. Chair time's where they make their money. And if they had dead chair time, They see that as a losing revenue, and it is losing revenue for them. They're paying assistants, they're paying overhead, they're spending another hour in the chair without getting paid for it in their mind. They're doubling their labor on that case. So those are two areas that are critical. And I think that, both sides have a vested interest in getting it right the first time.
Yeah, perfect. So now, the next question is when you go for what changes when you go from servicing clients locally versus servicing clients across markets?
It's interesting. There's not a lot of change, really. I always say with the portal, you've got our lab in your pocket. You can pull your phone out and you're in instant communication with the laboratory. And that is, unless, some labs may have like a really high touch local service that they can't have a big volume, but maybe there's certain things that they can do. Us, we're kind of built for scale. And, to us, it doesn't matter if a customer's in Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, 2 blocks away from us, they're going to get probably about the same customer experience because we have representatives in different states that go by and visit the practices. You get the same communication team, you get the same service team, you're working on the same platform.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very similar.
Okay. Now, a slightly different topic, but a very important one. So when we talk about digital dentistry, production, digitization is something that people talks about. People talks about launching a lot of customer portals as well so that they can provide the best customer experience. I also somehow feel that dental labs also need to invest in digital branding because if a dental practice is looking for services or they are looking for dental labs they can outsource their work to, those dental labs should be visible on the internet so that dental practice can simply click on the link, visit their website and connect with them as and when required. A lot of dental labs don't invest in digital branding, but you have done that. Why so?
Well, for me, you have to go where the customers are. Where are their eyes? Where's their attention? Nobody looks at printed material anymore. They don't look at trade journals. They look at their phone. And if you're not present in the digital universe with your brand, if you're not, showing that you have those types of skills to provide an upgraded presence with your marketing and telling your story, then maybe you don't have the background and the support or the structure digitally as a laboratory. Maybe you're not a very good lab. Maybe you're not a very good business person if you don't take advantage of the digital opportunities with social media and marketing on the internet. So I think that tells a little bit of a story about yourself with what does your website look like? Is it well constructed? Does it have useful information? Do you have a portal? Are you advertising? Are your people talking about your laboratory on social media? And we have a number of our staff that are more than willing to do videos and to tell our customers a little bit about who they are and how they contribute to their success. So I think if you're not seeing that and you just see a dead one-page website or you don't see people present on social media, or are they really trying? Are they savvy business people? Are they running a good company for you to do business with? I think the first thing that we all do when we shop any kind of brand is, look at their webpage. We look at their presence on Instagram and Facebook. And if they're not there, they might be a little sketchy, right? You start, is this a fly-by-night company? They don't seem to have much of a presence. Do I trust them to take care of me? And I think that's where some labs may be missing the point, as they need to be playing this game. It's not something that a lot of them are familiar with or enjoy doing, but it's something they need to do.
Yep. All right. So thank you so much, Andy, for this valuable session. A good conversation I think truly we have discussed about what digital dentistry truly means, what kind of components are there under digital dentistry, and how a great customer experience can still do wonders in this industry in today's day and age, where everyone is talking about just technology. They're talking about customer portals, but truly decoding the customer life cycle and providing the best experience to them is something that matters, right? And yeah, I mean,
Agreed.
valuable conversation. Thank you so much, and I think it's going to be a great learning experience for everyone who'll get a chance to see this video.
Akash, thank you so much for your time. I certainly appreciate you reaching out to me about this and give me a chance just to tell a little bit about our story and our perspectives on customer service and how to grow the lab business, but also just how to have a good dental life.
Yeah,
It's very important. So thank you again for this chance to talk.
thank you so much, Andy.